In a Winnie the Pooh comic strip, two characters were assessing Pooh's chances of winning an election. You never know what will happen in an election year, says one. The voters may do something completely unexpected, like vote. In the year 2000, the presidential election became so contentious that it had to go all the way to the Supreme Court. They were deciding how many votes to count in Florida. It came down to 537, separating former President George Bush and Al Gore. In 2016, the election was also contentious. President Donald Trump garnered the Electoral College, and Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, leaving so many Americans dissatisfied with the way that we elect our president, even calling for the abolition of the Electoral College. However, a better solution is in play for changing the way that we elect our president. We can switch to an apportionment system when it comes to the Electoral College, instead of a winner-take-all system, because it would be better for voters, it would improve presidential campaigns, and it would decrease partisan tensions within the United States. So first, it would be better for voters. Voters in America want to feel like their vote counts. However, in a USA Today March 8, 2018 article, it indicated that in California, 4.5 million voters voted for Donald Trump in the presidential election. However, because it's a winner-take-all state, those 4.5 million votes didn't count, and Hillary Clinton took all 55 electoral votes. This violates the principle of one person, one vote. When you have two states that have an apportioned system, Nebraska and Maine, those citizens' votes actually count towards the presidential election. However, in California, Alabama, Texas, to name a few, those states are heavily Republican or Democrat, and those electoral votes all go to one candidate. And that violates the spirit of the Constitution of equal protection. Every person's vote should count the same. The math geeks over at mathmisery.com in December 4th, 2016, they tell us that in Alabama, it's especially difficult for Democrats to think that their vote's going to count, as the state is heavily Republican. 62% of those voters in Alabama vote Republican. And so it de-incentivizes for both the Republicans and the Democrats wanting to vote at all. However, an apportionment system would flip the script. It would encourage Democrats to know that their vote would count, that their candidate would get a portion of the electoral votes, and that would spur them to the polls. That would also spur Republicans to the polls, because they would now know my neighbor could in fact influence the election. So more Republicans would vote and more Democrats would vote, and that's just a sample of what would happen across the United States. The apportionment system would switch the mindset of the voters, and they would get out to the polls. In addition to improving the voter process for voters, it would improve presidential campaigns. According to Politico, June 15th, 2016, candidates spend most of their time and most of their attention in swing states. In particular, in the 2016 election, the candidates focused on just 11 states. If you weren't Colorado, Florida, Iowa, Michigan, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or Wisconsin, then the candidates didn't spend much time or money there. Brookings Institute, September 28, 2016, indicated that 75% of the money and the time and attention that is spent in a campaign from a presidential candidate goes towards the swing states. So essentially, the presidential campaigns in a winner-take-all system ignore 39 to 40 states every single presidential cycle. However, when you switch to an apportioned system, it flips the script. It tells the candidates, hey, you have to pay attention to these not just the swing states, but every state, because you can actually garner votes towards the electoral win. It would have become crucial in 2016. We turn back over to the math geeks from mathmisery.com for that analysis. In the 2016 election, with an apportioned system for every state, Hillary Clinton would have taken 268 electoral votes. Donald Trump would have taken 266 electoral votes. and 3 independent candidates would have taken 4 electoral votes. For those in the know, the magic number of 270 is missing. That means that the election of 2016 would have went to the House of Representatives, and there it would have been decided. That seems like it might create some chaos. However, we have to remember that the chaos that would have been created by an apportioned system wasn't created by an apportioned system. It was created by a winner-take-all system that only focused on certain states and stirred up the Republican and Democratic bases. So, in essence, how are we going to get out of this partisan nightmare? The apportioned system will help there. First, let's look at the current system and see how it absolutely entrenches the partisan politics that's going on in America right now. According to USA Today, February 27, 2018, it indicated that most candidates are going to spend their money and their time and attention where they're going to receive votes. That means that they retrench towards those swing states. Additionally, in terms of the way that the process works, is to secure votes, they only craft their messages for their bases in the other states. They're not trying to appeal to the other side at all. However, in an apportioned system, both on the left and the right, they'll start moving towards the middle in the messages that they give in those states. The reason why they want to do that is so that they can garner votes. The real mess when it comes to the politics that's going on in America is how the American people have responded to the hyper-partisan environment at the very top. Psychology Today, September 5th, 2018, indicates that Americans now only listen to news that's going to confirm what they already believe. That's called confirmation bias. And they only go to news sources that they know are going to provide that information. And those are called echo chambers. So essentially what you have going on in America is that what I believe is what I'm going to listen to. And what I'm going to vote for is going to be re-entrenched by the people that I listen to. And I'm not going to listen to other voices, so I never know if it's a Republican solution, a Democratic solution, or if it's the actual solution. I only hear what I want to hear, and then I do, in response to that, what I want to do to re-entrench everything that I've thought about. So, how does apportionment flip the script? Because the messages change. Republicans now want to win votes in California, and they want to win votes in Illinois. Then they're going to have to change their messages also for New York. So those heavily Democratic areas, Republicans change their messages. And the Democrats will change their messages in terms of moving more towards the center because they're now trying to win the election. But what supercharges the whole process is going to be what it does for independent candidates. Very few people know who Gary Johnson, Jill Stein, and Evan McMullin. Very few people know who these people are. Evan McMullin, in an apportioned system, would have won 1 electoral vote. Jill Stein, 1 electoral vote. And Gary Johnson, the former governor of New Mexico, 2 electoral votes. We've heard of Ross Perot, the 20% that he took in the 1992 election. We've heard of Ralph Nader, who garnered 2.7% of the vote in Florida, which is why Florida became such a contentious issue and gave it to former President George Bush. So, Evan McMullin having a chance to change the way that voters vote means that Republicans and Democrats would suddenly be scared. And that means they'd have to change what they're doing. In essence, the apportioned system is a better system for the United States instead of a winner-take-all system because it's going to improve the process for voters, it's going to improve presidential campaigns, and it's going to decrease partisan politics. So we look back at Pooh, and he's sitting there on a stump. He really is trying his best to do what's best for voters. And in typical Pooh fashion, he's sitting there with his little paw gently tapping on his head as he says, "Think, Pooh, think." His presidential campaign advisor, however, leans over and says, "Pooh, the people don't want you to think. Just offer them more honey."